Hello and welcome to MCN. We're here today to test some A2 licensed sports bikes. Now this motley crew of motorcycles, most of these are new for this year, and rather than a crusty old road tester trying to decide which is the best, we've enlisted the help of Joseph Wright. Now for regular viewers, you'll know Joseph because he's been with MCN for a few years and we've kind of followed his biking journey to where he is now, kind of just at the end of his A2 license period. And Joseph's tested 125s for us. He's tested A2 license bikes, restricted versus non-restricted. And we thought it'd be good to get you involved with this test because I guess it's your final fling on these kind of bikes, isn't it?
Yeah, right at the end of my A2
Exactly,
journey.
your journey. And just to give everyone an idea of what kind of rider Joseph is, so you can kind of judge his opinions. As you know, he's got a ZXR 400, probably the best bike on MCN's fleet.
I think so.
Yeah, and you love sports riding, don't you?
Yeah, that kind of defines how I've kind of ranked these bikes.
Yeah, exactly. So these are right up your Strava, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely.
So we've done a lot of testing on these bikes. I've ridden them a little bit.
Yep.
You've ridden them a lot. So what have you done with these just over the last few weeks?
So we've done kind of a combination of road action for photo and video. Then I've ridden all the bikes myself to kind of get myself an opinion. And then also we went to Mallory on a track day. Yeah. Because even though these are kind of the least powerful bikes, you know what I mean, that exist, what I value in bikes is more performance. I think a lot of young people do as well, even though they don't really have it. It's you want it. Yeah,
we'll come on to the track stuff later. Like I said at the beginning, all these bikes are new really, but the KTM's been out a couple of years now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
The others are new. So the CBR 500R Honda, that's had a few little tweaks for this year, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kawasaki Ninja 500.
Yeah, it's gone from a 300 to a 400 and now it's a 500.
Now it's a 500. KTM tried and tested. This is the only single of the bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only 300cc displacement as well. Yeah. All the others are about 450.
Yeah. Then we've got the CF Moto SR. We've tested the SR before, but this is the S model. And this has got some funky bits on it, hasn't
it? Got the single-sided swing arm, a couple of geometry changes, and just slightly better componentry across the board.
Yeah. And big ass wings as well.
Yeah. Like it needs them.
Exactly. And then last but by no means least, we've got the Aprilia RS 457.
Yeah.
I did the launch of that one earlier in the year. Loved it.
Yeah. I'm really very jealous because you got that bike on, what do you have it on, Super Courses?
I had Pirelli Super Courses,
yeah.
So. I mean, we'll come on to the tyres later. I mean, there's two schools of thought when we do group tests like this. You could either put all the bikes on control tyres, or you can leave the bikes on standard tyres and test them as you get them from the dealers. So, you know, there's a lot to be said. There's pros and cons for each. We've left them all on their standard road tyres, and that might come into play later when we talk about the track performance. But run us through your feelings of the bike. One of the ones I'm most interested in to begin with, the CF Moto.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest surprise.
Yeah, I've never ridden it before. So, you know, it looks really cool. What was it like on the road?
Yeah, I think, walking up to this bike, I mean, it looks the least kind of, a lot of these bikes, people will say kind of the Honda, that's a baby Fireblade, but it's very turned down. You know, in ZX10, very, very turned down. This still has all the nice things that your superbike model would have. You with wings, you know what I mean? Single-sided swing arm. The rear of that looks like a V2 Panigale. And obviously
like carbon fibre effect panels
throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's got all the things that, you know, like from my ZXR, the riding position on this is one of the sportiest here. The pegs are really high up, which you really appreciate, and you're kind of over the front of the bars. Feels quite stiff, the suspension, but in a good way, supportive. You're not crashing through it constantly. Yeah. But the only thing with this bike and what lets it down massively is the electronics. The traction control just kind of interferes with it. In that kind of way, it's a little bit less refined. And the traction control cutting in. Not sure if you felt that as well.
And that's in a straight line at full throttle, isn't it? So there's a fault with the bike. There's something wrong with it. If you're not full throttle, it doesn't cut out. Yeah. It does it full throttle through the gears, which is a bit disappointing, yeah.
And you're full throttle on this a lot of the time.
Yeah, you've got to be, haven't you? Yeah.
So yeah, a bit of an electronic glitch with it, which kind of spoilt it for me because I think it's probably the best looking here. Yeah. And it's got a 270-degree crank, so it sounds, got a bit nice roar to it. And like I said, I like the riding position, but it having that electrical thing, and it, you know, it being a Chinese bike, and you kind of have that preconception, and obviously they've got a lot better, but having that on it was let that down for me, because the reliability is a key thing, isn't it?
Of course it is, yeah. And what about the actual performance of the engine in the straight line? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously everything here is marginal. You're talking a horsepower there and a kilo less, but it's right up there with the other bikes. And when we've gone on track, you're lapping as fast as all the other ones here. So
Yeah. I mean, when I rode it, I was most impressed with the ride quality in the suspension.
Yeah.
On the road, anyway. I didn't ride on a track. I was your Uchiho on track, wasn't I?
I was coming into the
Exactly.
garages and
But yeah, I thought it was really good. Same thing, you know, that cutting out when you're fast in a straight line was a bit disappointing. Decent dash.
decent dash.
What about the riding position? Was it extreme or neutral?
Yeah, it's definitely the more extreme in terms of the pegs, but that is, like I say, that's kind of how I'm judging these bikes. Comfort's never really something that bothers me, and if I'm buying a sports bike, I want to be over the front of the bike, and I want to have control over the front end, and I don't find bikes too uncomfortable, even when they have high pegs and low bars like my ZXR. So I really like it being focused.
Sticking on real sporty bikes, so this is in no particular order at the moment.
Yeah.
The Aprilia. I mean, what do you think of that? It's a lovely thing, isn't it?
That did blow me away, riding these. I think that was the last one I rode, and it does kind of feel like it's in a different class. Everything from like the aluminium frame to the way it's kind of all put together. It's definitely the most engaging to ride on the road, and that was the hardest to reach that bike's kind of potential. If that makes sense. It's got the biggest window, I think, of, you know what I mean, you could ride it and still have a great time like you did at the launch, where, you know what I mean, whereas some of the others maybe
you reach the limit quite quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
And it feels like a baby RS660 to me. Perhaps saying baby is the wrong word. It's just a smaller one, because I mean, it's got everything on it. It's got electronics on it. It's got a nice dash. It's fast.
Yeah, it is fast. It's right on the limit of A2, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, they've focused on other stuff. So the braking's amazing. The suspension feels right up there, not budget at all.
No.
So yeah, they've really focused on all the other. It's so agile. So, you know, I mean, as a bike to learn on and practice and learn your craft, it is really good.
And based on your past experience, you'd have something like that rather than a restricted, say, RS660, because with a restricted bike, you've got all the weight that you don't want without any of the power to push it along. So it's much more fun.
Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, one thing that surprised me about the test in general is I thought yourself, after riding super bikes, might be get on these bikes and think, but I mean, you guys are having a cracking time flying
off. They're more fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, anything you can ride to the limit.
Exactly. Only thing that kind of makes sense on the road, really.
Okay, staying sporty again, KTM. So this has really done well in previous group tests. I mean, it's been around for a few years now. KTM they're ready to race. It's even on the fairing. You know, I like this bike because it's quite sort of roomy. The engine's willing. They handle well. What do you think?
Yeah, I think for the bike that's, you know what I mean, on paper has the least power and the smallest engine, it's the hooligan bike here. It is one of the more exciting ones, because it's, you know what I mean, it's got a supermoto mode where you can turn the electronics off, and you know what I mean, it's got the tallest seat height. It feels really flickable. You can properly play around with it. And yeah, it really surprised me that one of the other road testers, Carl, was really drawn to this bike, even though he's an ex-racer.
Yeah.
This is the bike he wanted to ride because, you know what I mean, it's the one you can have the most control of. Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. And what about comfort for you and performance for you?
Yeah, it's very similar to the CF Moto. So, you know what I mean, quite tall on the seat, pegs are quite high, and, you know, the bars being lower, that's what you want. And being on track, that was really good. Nice splayed bars. And
yeah. Feels like a bigger bike, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, these two bikes got a lot of admiring glances from wherever we stopped.
Yeah.
But people weren't so keen on this one.
No, I have to say, I mean,
the fairing's a bit weird at the front, isn't it?
I think obviously I'm not a journalist, so I can be a bit partial in the styling.
Yeah.
Isn't for me.
No.
Yeah.
It's a shame, really. From the handlebars back, it's really nice, isn't it? But the fairing's a
front
bit of an
end is
eyesore,
just,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Kawasaki. So that's new. That's got the new engine in it. It's quite
it does.
a nice engine.
Yeah, really, really nice. I think it was the fastest when we did our speed testing.
Yeah.
0 to 60. So we had all of them done, and surprisingly, even though that doesn't have the most power, kind of on paper, that was the easiest to launch, and it's got a real predictability to it, which makes it really easy to ride.
Just friendly. I mean, all these are sort of like sports bikes, mini sports bikes, in a way that you've got to be a little bit committed on them.
Yeah.
You know, they're built to go fast, really. Whereas Kawasaki, you can do a bit of both on it.
Yeah, it's definitely a kind of different proposition to these three, and when it started to rain on track and I had to choose a bike to go out on,
Yeah.
that was the one I was like, you know what, I know exactly where I'm out of it. The suspension's so soft, it's friendly, you know where you're at. But that is kind of its undoing as well with the Kawasaki, because
Yeah.
then as soon as you go, all right, I'm gonna go for a more spirited road ride, or on track, it does get out of shape, and you do start to just kind of you're just constantly moving with the suspension.
Yeah. But it's nicely made as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm not keen on these graphics. It'd be good if they did those in the anniversary.
In the 50, yeah,
Yeah, that'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
But,
no, really nice.
and sort of on the same vein as the Honda. What do you think of that? Probably not really
Yeah,
you,
so
is it?
I've actually ridden the Honda probably more out of all these. In the last test, I rode it up to Scotland and back, and
And
at
you
that
loved it
point,
then?
I loved it. I mean, there's some really good things about it. Like, I mean, the build quality is amazing. You know you're going to make it anywhere you go because of the reliability. But it feels like 20 kilos more than the rest of the bikes, and it's a different. The riding position it's sports toury. It's not sporty,
Yeah.
and it's a bit of a shame because, I mean, in that CBR 500 range, you've got the X and the F, which are nakeds and adventure bikes. So
Yeah.
you feel like they could get away
Could
with.
have, yeah, could
I
have gone a
mean,
bit further.
But yeah, it's the riding position. You never feel like you're
Yeah.
over the bike. You're always upright, and it feels uncomfortable to be leaning into it, basically.
So for the kind of riding you do and the kind of rider you are,
Yeah.
maybe it's a little bit too soft in terms of performance and
Yeah,
riding
It
position.
definitely felt like, I mean, the Aprilia, comparing the Aprilia to the Honda, like flicking through, on track, it was,
Yeah.
completely different.
I mean, the 500s are superb. And
Yeah.
as an aside, I needed a bike to steal for a couple of days
Yeah.
away from this test, and I just went straight for the Honda.
Yeah.
Honda
yeah.
or Kawasaki for me, just to live with as an everyday bike.
Yeah. So which one would you choose out of them as, a more experienced rider?
I'd just go for the Honda because it's more comfortable and it's just more predictable. I was on the way back from somewhere and I caught up with the Fireblade through some lanes. So it doesn't
really, yeah.
it doesn't, it's as fast as anything on the road. All bikes go the same speed on the road.
Yeah.
And all of these bikes are just so exciting because you can use all the performance, you can get the things moving. They're really exciting. And if there's a group of you on similar bikes like this,
Yeah.
then it is a lot of fun. But I really like the Honda. I don't think I could live with any of these three.
Do you not?
Day to day, no.
Yeah.
But I mean, talking of outright performance, there's still track day stickers on some of these bikes where
Yeah.
we took them to Mallory. I was your Uccio, as we said.
You were, yeah.
And I think it was a no-brainer to say that probably your two favourites of these around the track were the Aprilia and the KTM.
Yeah, which is really, really surprising, that being the most powerful bike here and that being the least. But
Yeah.
the way, I mean, that's where the tyres come into it for the KTM, 100%.
So the KTM's got by far the best tyres.
Yeah,
Michelin
outstanding.
Power 6.
Yeah.
The Honda's got sports touring tyres. The Kawasaki's got kind of sporty-ish tyres, GPR 300s.
Yeah.
The Aprilia and this have got Chinese tyres. haven't
Yeah,
they?
which are really a bit of a letdown. And like I say, I'm very, very jealous you got to ride this bike
Exactly.
with amazing tyres on it, because it could be so good. But I mean, me riding test bikes and obviously not wanting to push over a limit, I mean, it was very hard to push the
I could
Aprilia.
tell you weren't on this. You could just slam it on its side
Absolutely.
with complete confidence, which has a lot to do with the chassis and the layout and everything as well. But the tyres play a huge part, and
Yeah.
you weren't really able to do the same on the Aprilia, were you?
No, not at all. And but to be fair though, I felt like I was riding, the KTM, and I felt, felt amazing, felt like a hero, even though I was probably
Yeah,
holding other people up. But with the Aprilia, I didn't feel like I really scratched. I feel like it had so much more, and
Yeah.
it kind of comes back to that. With an A2 bike, you want a bike that you can ride straight after your test, and where
all
I'm at
the way
now,
through it.
2 years down the line, where
Yeah.
you're starting to use more of what these bikes have to offer.
What was the CF Moto like around the track?
It's the profile on the tyres is really, really nice, so you feel like you can get it over, but it comes down to that grip thing
Lack of
again.
grip.
But whereas the Aprilia, you knew where you were at with the brakes, CF Moto, the kind of comes back to that refinement. The ABS just started to kick in everywhere, and it's
Yeah.
a really disconcerting feeling on this bike because the lever just goes, and then
Yeah.
you're unable to kind of get it back. So
So you can't ride too close to other riders just in case.
yeah, exactly.
Got to be
Yeah.
a little bit careful. And obviously the Honda and the Kawasaki are a little bit more softer. They're not really designed for the track.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you find it with these bikes on a track day when you're mixing it with super bikes?
Yeah, even in the novice group, you've got, I'm in the queue waiting to go out, and I'm on a 300, and
Yeah.
next to me is an M1000 RR, and you're thinking, how is this?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
And then you have the classic kind of absolutely monstered on the straight, but they brake feel like they've broken about 50 meters too
Yeah,
early
yeah.
before the first corner. So, I like you say, I mean, I agree. I think if you were all riding these like you would have done on the launch of the Aprilia,
It was amazing.
I bet that was fantastic.
We
'cause
even
it's
got
just
to dice with Vinales at one. I say
Exactly.
dice.
Diced,
We
yeah.
saw him for a couple of corners. Okay, so just before we sort of deliver a verdict,
yeah.
which I think we all know what it's going to be, what would you say sort of the pros and cons of each of these bikes are? And we start with the Honda.
Yeah, so Honda 17.1 litre tank means you got 300 miles,
Yeah.
which means you're enjoying the bike for you know what I mean, as long as possible. And I think it's worth saying, I'm not just going in on at the Honda.
No.
I feel like I've been a
But
little
this
bit
test is all
harsh.
about you and what you want from a
Yeah,
bike.
it's going to be perfect for somebody
Yeah.
else, but for me, it's just the riding position. It doesn't feel sporty enough for a sports bike.
Yeah.
It feels a bit heavy and a bit sluggish throwing it around. But then, you know what I mean, build quality and reliability is it's gonna be right up there with the Honda.
Yeah. Kawasaki?
Kawasaki, I mean, it's that predictability, the suspensions, you know, what I mean, really soft. I think if I did this test a year ago when I was just starting out on A2, I probably would have chosen that because you know exactly where you're at. It's got the fastest 0 to 60,
Yeah.
and you know what I mean. It's the same as the Honda. It's been refined over years, and with these two bikes, you could find one from 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be on probably a budget like I was, and
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
find
exactly.
an older version.
Yeah. KTM,
KTM,
pros and cons?
Yeah, massive surprise. It's definitely one of the more fun bikes on the road, even though it's the smallest engine. But the dash starts to flash when you're near the red line, and I think it's just there the whole time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
great because you're using all of its, has to offer, and the tyres are amazing, so it inspires that. But I think now I'm wanting more power. That is just a little bit kind of
Right.
gutless.
Yeah. Pros and cons for the CF?
Probably my favourite looks, sound and riding position, but I couldn't rate it that highly just because, the electronics going wrong with the traction control
Yeah.
and the ABS intervention. As a new rider, things that don't inspire confidence and, give you a little moment. I mean,
Yeah.
if that's happening to me, if you were a week after passing your test and you're running into something like that, then you're not going to be.
No, exactly. You're going to wonder what's going on.
Yeah, but I mean, I wish other kind of manufacturers made their A2 bikes look like
Yeah,
their
exactly.
super bikes, because
Yeah.
I do think they're a little bit
Which these two
dumbed
do,
down.
don't
Yeah,
they?
exactly.
Yeah,
There's
and
definitely
these
the
don't
DNA,
really, do
whereas
they?
those is, exactly.
A little bit watered down. And
Yeah.
pros and cons for the Aprilia?
I mean, it's a lot of pros. I think it's the most fun, the best front end. Does feel like in a slightly different class
Yeah.
in terms of the feedback when you're riding and how fun it is. I mean, couldn't really get me off of this.
No, exactly.
The tester, yeah, it is really, really good. I like the riding position. The gear shifts are fantastic. And then the only bad thing I'd say is the tyres. And then other than that,
Yeah.
it is
Just change the tyre as soon as you get it,
Exactly.
and then it'd be perfect, wouldn't it?
literally.
Okay, so give us an order then and explain why.
Yeah, like I've just mentioned.
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
That
It's the
Aprilia,
Aprilia, isn't it?
It
It's
feels
one
the most like
for you.
my ZXR. It's like a modern day. You're restricted on power, so make sure the braking and the whole rider experience is great. And to open your door to that in a garage would
Fantastic.
exactly. You'd be very
Yeah,
lucky to
and
own
those
it.
colours are really cool as well, aren't
Yeah, really, really nice.
they? Second place for you?
Kawasaki.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I think, like I say, if it was a year ago, it definitely would have been my favourite. Most friendly, engine's predictable, was the fastest off of the line, and on the road, it just looks after you everywhere. So
Yeah.
you feel like you can get away with so much, so much on it. But now I'm starting to push a little bit harder, and going on track is something that I like to do.
Yeah.
It just felt like it was so loose and never really felt like it had that support, under hard braking or, coming out of corners, and it rattles so much.
Yeah.
The vibes on it feels like it's not meant. Whereas
No.
that, the harder you push it, the better
Exactly.
it feels. That the harder you push it, the more you feel like you need a ZX6.
And I think that's the same with all motorcycles. Ones that are quite soft and friendly, they're easy to ride to a point.
Yeah.
But then the ones that have got a higher ceiling of performance, they're harder to get into, but then
Exactly.
there's more left in there.
Yeah.
Okay, third place.
KTM,
Okay.
probably the most fun. It's that hooligan option. You know what I mean? There's loads at the bottom. The electronics are great. You can switch a lot of it off. Tyres are amazing. Suspension's firm.
Yeah.
Love the riding position. I'd say the thing that lets it down for me is the looks.
I
And
know.
it's a obviously that's.
But it's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I just wouldn't really
most people are going to buy based on looks,
Exactly.
regardless of what we're
Yeah,
saying now.
And if you like the looks of the KTM, then it's got all of those benefits
Great
and
bits.
not a lot. And I think the only other thing would be it'd be a hard bike to learn on. I feel like even though it's the smallest capacity, it's the tallest seat height. I mean, it's a jumpy off at the bottom, and
Yeah.
so yeah, pros and cons basically.
Fourth?
Would be the CF Moto.
Yeah.
It was really high for me, but then that electronics coming in and stuff. I mean, I'd love to open my garage to that. I think it's great. The suspension, like you say, is amazing for, you know what I mean, what it is, and you've got adjustment of the front forks.
Yeah.
The braking like componentry is Brembo, and you've got loads of feel, but then the ABS comes in and just completely spoils it. So
such a shame.
yeah, I mean, I think in a couple of versions of this bike, it could be right up there, but they definitely need to nail out the electronics and stuff.
Who would have even thought a few years ago there'd be any such thing as a CF Moto sports bike?
Exactly.
That looks so good and goes so well.
Yeah, exactly.
Last place.
Yeah, it is the most expensive, but you know what I mean? There's things on it that are just amazing. Like, you know, it's the only one with 2 discs at the front and the biggest tank, but it's just not the genre that I'm looking for. I want the lightest and the most flickable bike here, and that is, you know what I mean? That's the best one to maybe go down the shops on, but not actually go on the B-road blasting kind of thing.
So you're at the end of your A2 license journey. You're going to get something bigger soon.
Can't wait.
If you were just at the beginning, would your order be the same?
No, I think it'd be different. I think it depends. I think it depends what your journey is, because I mean, people in America go straight onto their 1,000, and that's apparently the best way to go.
Yeah.
But I think there's something about that Kawasaki in terms of you wouldn't probably have had to ride a 125. You could jump straight on that, and that's in terms of kind of progressing as a rider. I think that Kawasaki is right up there.
The easiest just to jump straight on, be a bit sporty. Maybe these are a little bit too advanced, if you like.
Yeah, it's a weird one to say about an A2, but I mean, when I first jumped on my ZXR, it's completely that aggressive thing, and you have to really work up to it. Whereas that Kawasaki, I think if you were a new rider, it'd make you feel like a hero, even though.
Absolutely. So if you can take any one of these bikes away, it's the Aprilia.
It is the Aprilia.
Are you swapping it for your ZXR 400?
No, I don't think so. I think, the rawness of my ZXR is
still
the engine character. I mean, being parallel twins, I mean, obviously that's what everything is now, and it makes sense. But I mean, an inline 4, I think you can't really beat it in terms of pure excitement.
But they don't exist anymore. You'd need to find a second-hand one.
I only get 80 miles to my tank, so it just wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, that's quite an extreme option, isn't it? And these are just, they're easy, they're new. And
what about yourself? So if you were to quickly fire through your...
I suppose if I was just going to be sporty riding, I'd agree with you. I'd have the Aprilia.
Yeah.
I'd go Aprilia, KTM, Kawasaki, Honda, CF Moto.
Yeah.
Just because there's no excuse for the...
Yeah, exactly.
The
so close, but
so close, but no cigar.
Yeah, and it could just be this bike, and that's a bit of a shame.
For an everyday bike, I just went straight for the Honda because it's just easy.
It's got its merits, doesn't it?
But I never looked back at it when I parked it up and sort of gave it an admiring glance like I would do with the Aprilia.
But you did keep it with a Fireblade, so.
But I did keep up with the Fireblade. Anyway, thanks very much for this.
Yeah, cheers for having us on. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure to ride all this.
Yeah, it was awesome seeing you ride at Mallory as well.
Smile was on my face for a whole week.
Exactly. So. Well, there you go. So the Aprilia is our favourite A2 sports bike for 2024. Was no surprise really, was it? Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more like this coming very soon.